Explore the history of St. Kitts with a visit to the Brimstone Hill Fortress National Park. This 42-acre complex of fortifications has been designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Upon entering the fortress, you can choose to visit the gift shop and orientation center, where you can purchase unique, high-quality items at duty-free prices. Or you can look in on the Fort George Museum, which boasts a collection of military and other exhibits unrivaled in the Eastern Caribbean. The breathtaking view of Brimstone Hill includes the mountain range and a view of several other islands on a clear day, and of the sandy point bay that the fortress once defended. Visit us and really experience the history of St. Kitts. This venue will also lend an indescribable ambience to your wedding or banquet.
Want to get the latest news and information on demand? Check out zizonline.com. Our website is updated daily to bring you all the latest local, regional, and international news. Gone abroad and miss home? Check out zizonline.com for our live streams and uploaded local content. We're also on Facebook. Like our page and receive photos, info, and updates directly on your newsfeed. Living on the go? Then our new mobile website can work for you. Visit zizonline.com and get all the information you need on your phone's browser. zizonline.com, reaching you wherever you are.
Welcome back to the round table for today, Monday, the 27th of April. And as you know, we celebrated World Intellectual Property Day on the 26th, which was yesterday. And so tonight we're here in an educational but also celebratory mood, since we know that we've been dealing with this issue in St. Kitts for quite a while. And now we have an intellectual property office. And so we're moving in the right direction. So I'm going to go to Mrs. Jenkins, who heads that office, and she'll tell us, of course, what is going on with the office. And I'm sure later on tonight, everybody will get some sort of understanding what is intellectual property and how it affects what they do, especially with our focus being on music tonight. Mrs. Jenkins, good evening.
Thank you so much, and good night to all. Every year, on the 26th of April, we celebrate World Intellectual Property Day. And as was said earlier, yesterday was World Intellectual Property Day. And tonight, we are using this platform to celebrate that day. And in doing so, we will bring to the general public some awareness of intellectual property right, and we will also, in a sense, celebrate contribution made by creators to the economic and social development of St. Kitts and Nevis. Francis Gorrie, in the Director General of WIPO, in his message for IP Day stated, enormous artistic, personal, social, and economic effort goes into creation and performance of music. We must find a way of ensuring its sustainability in the economy. We must not take music for granted, we must value it. And the issue for me tonight is, how do we sustain it? How do we protect this invaluable asset, music?
Okay, thank you very much for that introduction. Marlene, you wear quite a few hats,
yes,
and they all fit very well.
Thank you.
So, where do you fit into this equation?
Well, I hope that tonight in the discussion I can share some of my experience in a few different ways. I am the Research and Documentation Specialist at St. Kitts Department of Culture, and in that capacity, I work to help to develop the infrastructure of the creative industry, creative and cultural industry here. Music being one of the main areas that a lot of adults and young adults are participating in. We get a lot of questions. We're trying to help to organize the industry, to share information so that they can be empowered and know how to manage their careers in music and in other areas that relate to IP properly. And I also wear another hat outside of the ministry. I have my company, Creation Family International, where one part of it, I represent artists as an agent. So a little bit later, I will talk about what an agent does as opposed to a manager, and kind of hopefully demystify that.
Okay, thank you very much. And now we go to Mr. John Francis, who has been around for quite a while, and he's been working in this field, trying to educate people as well. I mean, we go back a long way, trying to get an understanding of this. So you're coming to us more from a business perspective. And so what role does what does business have to do with, my song that I'm singing? I mean, this weekend at the Calypso Show.
Yes, it's hard to explain or to get people to imagine that something you cannot see, such as music. It's not like water. You could see it in a bottle and you could sell it. Music, you can't. You can't touch it. There are a number of players involved in the sale, the business of music. It starts off from recording studios, it's onto labels, to distributors, to publishers, to promoters, and all of them have businesses. So my input today, I hope, will be to reflect on how these businesses impact individual artists as in the role of in the world of intellectual copyright.
Okay, and Adrian, well, you wear a couple of hats as well too, but we're gonna go back to the days when you used to play the bass and own Toucan. Unless you do at home, and I just don't get a chance to see it because you don't live in Boyd's next to me anymore. So, I mean, your role though, because I think that's one of the critical components of what we're discussing tonight, is getting the artists to understand how critical, how important this is for them, because it's a revenue stream that doesn't go away once it starts.
Well, Monarch, we've been doing work for a long time. And from the very first time we did some recordings and work way back in 87, the issue of copyright, registering your music has always come up, and we've been working, when we work together, doing a lot of things, trying to get music works registered. I think people have to understand that music, songs are an entity which, although not normally sold, can be bought and sold like anything else. You buy, it's a piece of property, something we can't see, but it's a piece of property. Some places you can actually use it to get bank loans. But here it's growing now, but we have to have a respect for property such as music, and understand that the people who create these works, songwriters, have intrinsic right in those pieces of property. And I think that's what we're going to discuss tonight, but I think we have to explain to the general public exactly what it means. People don't understand. Because you sing a song doesn't mean you own it. There's somebody who might have written it who has nothing to do with the deliverance of it.
Correct.
And the separation of the two. So songwriters can make money just from writing songs. They don't have to be an artist. And there's a process you go through in terms of publishing your music, getting people to use your works, whether it be on other people's albums or in a movie or whatever right you have, rights you can get from it in terms of working it. A publisher is usually the person who tries to get that work used so that you can earn a living from. They have songwriters around the world who are much better off than a lot of artists, because a lot of the artists might be singing songs that don't belong to them. They only have a lifespan, but like you said, it never goes away. So if you own that property, somebody like Stevie Wonder, I mean, he has royalties coming in every single day.
Closer to home.
Closer to home, King Arrow.
Yep.
You know, he probably earned more than everybody else from one song. But this is something that we have to learn, and we have to really understand what our rights be and how we can make money in the music business from this particular aspect, which we're going to talk about tonight. But it's something that needs to really, I know Mrs. Jenkins been promoting it very well the last couple of years, but we need to get on the bandwagon together and really understand how this business works in terms of royalties and how we can use those royalties to make money.
Let's start with how it's structured then, maybe. We'll tell people how music, the industry is structured. So then we can then deal with the difference.
And we can come. We're gonna come to that. But what I want to do first is just so that the ordinary folk who have no idea what IP is or intellectual property, just a brief explanation as to some of the components that it involves.
Okay. Intellectual property actually deals with creation of the mind, and under this intellectual property, you have intellectual property rights. You have to look, intellectual property is not, I don't want to keep using the word intellectual property because most people do not understand it. So I use the word like, it includes things like copyright, which is what we're going to decide today. And copyright is divided into, you have two aspects. You have copyright and you have the related rights. So on the copyright, you will deal with like the songwriter as the copyright, and then the related rights, you have like the performers, the broadcasters, the phonograph maker, or the recorder, as we normally say. Now you have patterns, and this is a problem we have. Persons always come to my office and say they want to pattern their music. They write some lyrics and they want to pattern their music. And pattern deals with protection of an invention. So therefore, if you build, I would assume, like, say, the cell phone that we use, certain components within that cell phone, you have invented it, you can have that patented. But you cannot patent lyrics, you cannot patent a song. It comes under copyright. Now, there are no formalities with respect to copyright, and this is something creators must always bear in mind. There are no formalities, there are no registration aspect of it in St. Kitts and Nevis. In the US, yes, but not here. Once you have created that piece of work, then you get protection. Now, in addition to copyright and patents, we also have what we call trademark. And again, trademark, you can trademark certain aspects of music. For example, if there is a band, you can trademark the band name, the band logo, even the artist. And that is a way, again, of ensuring that if this band becomes popular and this band becomes very well known, you can maybe get money or get reward for anything that the band plays or wherever they perform. Now, another thing is people then cannot use your band name without asking your permission, as they say. Now, there's also, it includes industrial designs, like designs of the clothing we wear. That is another aspect of intellectual property. There are other aspects like geographical indications, etc., but I wouldn't go into those tonight.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Mrs. Jenkins. John, I'm going to go to you because you are dealing with the business of the business end of what we're talking about tonight. How do you convince me that my music is a property?
Good question. I would try and, first of all, well, we both know that we enjoy what we hear the first time we wrote it or recorded. I would try to show in different building blocks areas where that song will fall and what revenues can be gained from the different divisions, the exploitation of that song.
And I asked that question because I think that the artists or the people who are involved in St. Kitts Nevis, they must get the understanding that, listen, this is not just a song that I sing at carnival and people dance and have a good time. I mean, something went into the creation of the music or whatever it is. And I don't know, maybe I'm going to go to Marlene. Okay, well...
Just a question to John.
Okay.
That's the point. John, how do you separate works of art? I write a song, and Marlene writes a song. They're very similar. What what definition do you use to separate works of art?
Okay, with music, it's genre, or category. When a producer or a record label hear a piece of music, he's thinking about his target audience. He's thinking about the genre, and he's thinking geographical location. He's also thinking about seasonalization, the time of year. Now, each song, depending on what key it's played, gives the human being a different feeling. We all feel different when we hear a certain piece of song. But a good song will make everybody feel the same thing.
But in particular, what I meant was, if my melody is the same as her melody, what differentiates the song? That's what I was, in terms of intellectual property. So if I write a song based on her song, is it a song? Is it a new song? What in terms of the regulations? That's where I'm trying to get that information.
For intellectual, it has to be original.
Right.
So therefore, if you copy somebody else's music, then you cannot ask for copyright protection because the music does not belong to you. It's not original. It must be original.
But can I use that music though? Can I use that music? I understand that you said that I need to get permission.
Right. Well, okay. Under the copyright law, the creator has exclusive right to use and exploit his or her creativity.
And that's both for lyrics and music.
Right. You have the exclusive right to use and exploit, but you also have the right to authorize other persons to use your work. And therefore, if you want to use somebody else's creation, you need to get authorization, you need to get permission. It's the same thing. It's property like any other property, just like land, a car, a building. So your intellectual property right is a property like any other property. The same way you want to get my permission to borrow my car to use it, it's the same way if you want to use my music, my lyric, my song, you need to seek permission.
Maybe we should explain how that works in practice, because I think now the listeners, viewers are getting very much, knotted up there. Okay, going back to your example, you decide you want to write a song. Okay, you get up in the morning or in the middle of the night, you get this idea, go to the studio next morning, and then you record it. You've written it and you've recorded. You have now created a property that is yours. It's automatically copywritten because it's yours. Okay, but it's copywritten, and you have to protect that copyright if somebody contests. And the way to do it is to register it when you've done it. And there's lots of mechanisms to do that, which we won't get into right now. But anyway, you record it, you registered it, it is now a property. You then take that property to a record label, okay? And that record label will put it on a transferable device, whether it be a CD or some way of getting it to the public. That is another piece of property. Yes, and it becomes a property of that is placed on the radio, and there's money to be earned off that. There's money to be earned off the sales of it, the download of the track from the online stores or the physical CD that's sold in the stores. That property has value along all the chains of production. Afterwards, if somebody wants to use it to do a cover version of it, they say, "Oh, I like that song. I want to do a version of it." Okay, and copy it, or to put a bit of that song into his song. He has to go back to the original owner who owns that property and say, "Can I use that song? Can I use a piece of that song?"
And we're gonna come back to that, because I think that's a very critical part of the discussion. Do I have to ask, or do I just acknowledge? But Marlene, you wanted to Marlene, you wanted to get in on this part of the conversation. So
just to say that from my perspective, right, and I'm wearing my agent hat. Whenever I work with an artist, sometimes it's an artist that has been writing music or writing the lyrics. They've recorded some music, etc. I try and make them understand that when you create something that's original, you own it. That's your property. And in order for you to make money from it, you have to sell it in many different ways, right? Simple thing. And then I try and make them understand that in order to sell it, you've got to prove that you own it, right? So going back to the example that John made, yes, late at night, you think about it, you write it, you create it. Okay, you and only you know about it, right? So how do you prove to somebody else that you've created it? It must be documented, right? So if you write the music, you've got to have it written, put the date, your name on it to prove. I wrote it at 12:02, you know.
So you can send it in an envelope to yourself anymore?
Well, I'm going to let Ms. Jenkins speak to that, but what I will say is you document it, right? And this is where, as Ms. Jenkins said, there's not a system in St. Kitts and Nevis to record or to register something that you've created. But in other countries, like America and other places in Europe, that registry does exist. But it's not necessary to register it with someone to prove that you created it. You have to document it, put your name on it, the exact time, you know, when you created it. Now, in order to make money from that property that you've just created, which is you've written the lyrics. Maybe I'm just a writer, but I'm not a singer. I need to find someone to sing this piece of music for me. So I might choose to sell it to them to make some money. Or if I choose to sing it myself, I need to be able to collect monies from people who purchase it or people who listen to it. And that's what a collective management organization does for you. When you register with a CMO, they're the one, like you would give them, this is my song, I wrote it, here's my name, this is, you know, these are the lyrics. If you recorded the music part of it, you sent a copy of that to them. Now, because they're connected with CMOs all over the world in different countries, if you take that piece of property that you've created and you get someone to sing it and you create a CD and it's played on a radio station or it's played on a TV show or a commercial or ad, these CMOs are the ones that, because you've registered it with them, they will be able to track globally where that's being played and what's happening to it, as long as you inform them. I've created this property. I say I gave it to ZIZ to use on their airwaves. I'm going to tell my CMO, who I'm registered with, what I did with this song that I registered with them, and then they're going to go into action and they're going to check the CMO for this region that's dealing with the Caribbean. If I register with a CMO in the UK or Europe or America, they're going to check with the CMO in the region to see if ZIZ is doing what it should be doing, so that royalties can be collected. That's only one revenue stream.
Okay. I'm going to hold you there for a minute, just before you explain what a CMO, because I think we have to do. I think we have to do terms of reference as well, because I think that's the only way we're going to have our artists understand how important this is.
I did start with that.
Okay.
I did say collective management organization. That was the first thing I said.
Good.
So
collective. So some people think maybe it's collective money.
Okay. But we'll take the same thing.
While we ponder on that, we'll take a break. We'll hear from our friends at Brimstone Hill, and we'll be right back.
Explore the history of St. Kitts with a visit to the Brimstone Hill Fortress National Park. This 42-acre complex of fortifications has been designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Upon entering the fortress, you can choose to visit the gift shop and orientation center, where you can purchase unique, high-quality items at duty-free prices. Or you can look in on the Fort George Museum, which boasts a collection of military and other exhibits unrivaled in the Eastern Caribbean. The breathtaking view of Brimstone Hill includes the mountain range and a view of several other islands on a clear day, and of the sandy point bay that the fortress once defended. Visit us and really experience the history of St. Kitts. This venue will also lend an indescribable ambience to your wedding or banquet.
Want to get the latest news and information on demand? Check out ZIZonline.com. Our website is updated daily to bring you all the latest local, regional, and international news. Gone abroad and miss home? Check out ZIZonline.com for our live streams and uploaded local content. We're also on Facebook. Like our page and receive photos, info, and updates directly on your newsfeed. Living on the go? Then our new mobile website can work for you. Visit zizonline.com and get all the information you need on your phone's browser. zizonline.com, reaching you wherever you are.
Welcome back to the roundtable, and of course tonight we're discussing international or intellectual. I keep saying international. I have no idea why. So international intellectual property rights, and it says get up, stand up for music. We have of course some also eminently qualified people in our audience who are going to join us tonight once they have they want to take part in the discussions. As well, but we're going to go to Adrian because I think we need to maybe start working along a straight line, and I think maybe that's where people will get an understanding of what we're talking about. And when I say straight line, I mean I know we've been taking them around in circles, but I don't know if we can go from start to finish, but at least we can start.
It never works in straight lines, you know. It's all over, and the bass clef is another way. I think we have to define exactly when we say ownership, what we mean.
Mm-hmm.
A song is owned by the songwriter or songwriters if it's more than one. Because I could write the music, you could write the lyrics, and we both have created a work of a piece of music.
Yeah.
It could be two people creating a melody, because I could start it and you could, kind of tweak it. The producer of a recording would own the recording of that song. He doesn't own the song, but he owns the recording of the song. So he would have to pay the songwriter royalties for the use of the music or the song. The publisher, like John, would own the rights to the publishing. So the money is collected from royalties would come through his publishing company, and he would have an agreement with the songwriter as to who gets what. So there are more ownerships, related rights also for the use of the music. If there are other parties who want to record that song also, they'll have the related rights, and so I might be the first one to record it. But if another band, there's not anything that can stop you, but you need to get permission still, and you have to credit on your albums who wrote the song. Not who sang it before, but who wrote it. A lot of people put these songwriters, but it's nothing to do with the artist who actually sings the song. Cool. So the ownership is really the person who wrote the song. It's very seldom nowadays that people sell works of art. They can, but it's not normal. Most people keep it because it's an investment for the rest of your life if you handle it properly.
There was a big talk in the Caribbean about that a long time ago, Trinidad and Antigua, where, I mean, there was always the claim, of course, that Shelley Tobit was writing for Short Shirt.
Which he did.
Winsford Devines in Trinidad was writing for Sparrow. But you never ever see their names appeared on any
he does have it on a
albums.
few Sparrow albums. He has Winston's name.
Yeah.
But a lot of songs that Winston wrote, he put Sparrow.
Correct.
Now, I don't know what the arrangement was between Sparrow and Winston Devines. He probably bought them, which in case Devines was so prolific that he probably sold them. But that's something that happens in the Caribbean. In most other places, you don't find people as a normal thing selling works of art.
I know, because I mean every R. Kelly song that anybody sings, you know that R. Kelly wrote that song. I'm gonna go to Mrs. Jenkins, because what I asked before is, I know we were talking about, okay, so I want to use somebody else's property. I mean, do I need to find this person in Russia?
Okay.
To tell them that, hey, I need to use, Krishna Krashnov's whatever the song is.
Okay.
Or can I just acknowledge that, hey, this is not mine, it's copywritten by whatever?
Okay.
Okay.
You want to answer that one, Lucas?
Okay.
Yeah?
Well, one of the things with intellectual property, you have economic rights, you have moral rights in every piece of creation. And with moral rights, you always have to give credit. And that is something that is required. You give credit to the person who created the work, if you're using their work.
So I can't take you to court for the moral right.
Well, moral right is not transferable. It always remains with the creator. So you can't transfer, you cannot assign, you can't sell moral rights. It's always remain with the creator. What you can actually sell is the economic right, which is the right for compensation or fair reward for your creativity. What happens is that under our legislation, in fact, there is provision to deal with licensing. And if I can recall clearly, I believe there was provision if you want to use a piece of work and you cannot find the rights owner, you can get permission to use that work. But usually if you find, you should pay fair compensation. One of the issues in St. Kitts and Nevis, although there is no copyright, I'm trying to make sure I say, well, I'm not just saying registration, but there is not an office that is responsible to ensure if you use somebody's work that you pay compensation, and it is held until that person, you find out who the person or locate the creator. We do not have that in St. Kitts and Nevis. We do not have any authority here for it. Well, yet. Another thing is most of these organizations, collective management organization, they're supposed to have a very good database. And I think if you do the research, if you contact one of those associations, they may be able to give you the information you require on the ownership of that music. But usually permission is required, unless of course that song is in public domain, which means 50 years, life and 50 years after the death of the creator or the rights owner, it goes into public domain, and when it goes into public domain, then you're free to use it without authorization.
On that point though, internationally, when you're using an international song, there's the Harry Fox Agency, which you can go online. They don't represent everything, but you can get 99% of, and you can pay a licensing fee. And they actually send you, I'll give you a license by email. You pay for it, so you tell them how many copies you plan to do. And you, well, nowadays with the digital thing is changing, but there's a mechanism, but you pay. So that's one way. But locally, we don't have a body that covers our Caribbean music or local music in St. Kitts and Nevis. So that's a difficulty we have.
So nobody got paid for I Believe in Miracles. I chose not to call the name of the song out of that. So we're gonna go to John. Let's go to John because I know you wanted to jump in on this.
Yeah, I think Adrian and Ms. Jenkins sort of touched the point, but I think we need to explain a little bit in layman's terms. Again, I go back to this all the time so people are understanding. Okay, Adrian writes the song again. He's written the song. He's very happy about it. What should happen? He should have a publishing agreement with a publisher, okay? And this publisher would take the information from him. The information would be who wrote the song in terms of lyrics, who created the melody for the song, so together there are two elements of a song, text and music. And there are people who own both sides of that, and that is a song, 100% of a song is shared 50-50 between music and text and the people who created those, okay? That song should go to a publisher, and that publisher is a person who has Adrian under contract. I like Adrian as a songwriter. He writes many songs. I think he's really talented. I give him a contract. Adrian, I'm going to go and represent you. Every song that you've given to me, I'm going to go out into the world. I'm going to go to Coca-Cola and try and get it to make a jingle. I'm going to try and get it to the radio stations. I'm going to try and get it on films. I'm going to try and get it everywhere. Okay, and people will collect money for the use of that property. Okay, I'm a publisher. That's the role of a publisher. Okay, nothing to do with the recording, nothing to do with the label, just a publisher. The publisher will go to a record label and say, okay, Adrian's written a song. do you have an artist to sing this song? The record company says, yeah, we have an artist. We have Marlene. She's really good singing. Okay, they book a recording studio. Marlene goes and sing that song. Okay, now Marlene is the singer. She gets her royalties from the individual item that is sold of the record. That is another property. You, as the writer, you get the publisher's share of that revenue. Okay, so the revenues suddenly becomes into two parts: the songwriting, publishing part, and the mechanical, which is the selling. Okay, now the song goes out to the world, and everybody likes it, and it plays. It becomes a hit, and then Socrates says, "Ah, I like that melody. I want to use it." So then he has to find out. He can't just go into a studio and record it or take bits of it and sample it and put it in his song, because he's infringing your copyright and my copyright as a publisher. So Socrates has to come to me and say, John, as publisher, can I use Adrian's lyrics or his music? I want to use all of it and do a cover version, and I want to use parts of it. And depending on how I feel, I will give him an answer to do that. If I agree to give him, Socrates would sing it, it goes out, and he then gets the mechanical, each item of that, and all the publishing money of the radio and the jingles and everything goes to me, the publisher, who then I give it to Adrian. Okay? Now, it goes out on the radio and in St. Kitts, and now it's going to go out into the world. It's going to go to the United States, it's going to go to Europe. Now, it plays in Europe, and Socrates has written a nice little soca rhythm to that, and it's summertime in Europe, and the radio station said, yeah, I'm going to play that song, it's a big hit in the summer. He plays it, it goes out on the radio stations have to pay money to the rights owners for playing that song. Every record that ZIZ plays, plug, plug, plug. Every record ZIZ plays, okay, they are supposed to pay money.
Where's my security?
They are supposed to pay money to me via my CMO that Marlene spoke about, which is Collective Management Organization, such as ECHO, BMI, ASCAP, SASEM, PRS, these are CSAM, Jamrock, all these are organizations all around the world who protects copyright property for artists recording. So your song that you did, a version of Adrian's song, okay, that I own as a publisher, that Marlene recorded and sent out, a record label that sent out, you now have a version of it playing in Europe, okay? Now, the CMO says to their organization partners in Europe, Socrates has a song, can you please send me the money? They will look at it, yep, then they send the CMO the money comes back to me, the publisher, and then I pay it back to Adrian. In St. Kitts and Nevis, what's happening when I hear new vibes and small accent, last season they all had samples. Complete infringement of copyright. Total.
Well, unless they got permission and we just don't know.
Right.
Yes, exactly. I don't know.
I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. Yeah. But anyway, go ahead. Will you finish with that point? Because I wanted to play an advocate. Don't like the word devil's advocate. In doing some research, I run across this book. It says "Steal This Music" by Joanna Demas. I don't know if many of you guys, but she's of course a musicologist, industry consultant, and musician. One of the people who brought IP to the mainstream. The question that she was asking though is, it takes time to look at how overzealous intellectual property litigation is, and if it plays a part in stifling instead of stimulating musical creativity. So
can I jump in that straight away? I've been talking a lot. Let me jump in that straight away. Get a cut of that. Okay, back to the example again. You put the record out and without asking my permission, okay, to put a cover version of it, I find out and I take you to court. There is very rarely a court case. Very, very rarely. All of the 99% of all infringements are settled outside of court. What happens when Marlene, the example made before, and Adrian did, of writing down ownership, what you do is that you prove your ownership, and that might take you 2 or 3 years to prove it through the system, but they rarely ever get to court. So to answer your question, does it stifle creativity? It does, because it makes lawyers a lot of money. To get from 0 to 4 years, to get it to court, it costs a lot of money, and by the time it gets to court, when they get to the steps, they make an agreement.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a different.
Go ahead. We haven't heard from Marlene for a while. What's up? Go ahead,
Well, because
Marlene.
I'm listening, and I will contribute when I feel I need to. I understand what John is saying, but I personally don't believe it stifles creativity. I think creativity is what is pushing the industry. Things that people are being so creative, and we're in the technology today, the sampling that you talked about, everything's happening a lot faster, and I think that's kind of why the necessary precautions and order of business is being overlooked. There is, some infrastructure needs to be created in St. Kitts and Nevis to help and to enable our artists to manage their works properly. Okay? All these things that have been mentioned are fact. You cannot do business unless you know about these things. Some artists have the misconception of, if I sign with somebody, I don't need to know anything else. Not true. If you've ever heard of the statement, buyer beware, know what you're purchasing, know what services you're purchasing, and know why. You have to become familiar with the industry that you're working in. All of these things that we've been talking about, you must be aware of them, and you must try to have a basic understanding of them. I'm not saying you have to be an expert about a publisher, a producer, a writer, a singer, and all those components, but you should be aware and familiar of that industry, because you will not be able to make money of what you create. And that is the situation that we have in St. Kitts and Nevis. People are losing money. Creators are losing money, right? Because they're going with the creative feel of collaborating with somebody, and we had a good vibe, and that was a great session. Nobody, before they go into that session, or I won't say nobody, some do it, not all, I would say at the small percentage, and decide what's going to happen before you start having that creative synergy. Before you go into that producer's studio, you have to always, you have to, one, know why you're there. What are you doing? Are you recording something on music that you own, or are you purchasing some music to record your song? Who owns what? What is the split? What's the percentage are you going to pay out right for that tune from the producer, or are you going to enter an agreement because you don't have any money, but you want to record the song because you're zealous and you're excited, and the producer says, well, I see potential in you. Come into my studio, let's sign some paper that I own some of what you're recording, because you want to get in there and record your stuff. So you have to understand the paperwork before you actually do anything with that property that you've created, because that's how you make money. It really is 90% business and 10% enjoyment if you really want to make money out of your property. And you have to register it with these different agencies, whether it be the publisher, the copyright, the collection management organizations, and you have to keep excellent records of what you've created in order to make money from it. Because think about it, if you have been a writer, and we all have many other jobs, and we have this creative part that we do on the side. You might have been writing for years, you've never shown anybody your work, and one day you reveal it to somebody and they're like, wow, those lyrics would be great in a song, and stuff like that. If you have recorded all your information, I mean, you're sitting on a gold mine. If you meet the right person that's going to take that information, that thing that you've created, to the next level, they open up that door of earning for you, that opportunity. And that's why we go to a publisher, because someone who is a publisher in the industry, their job is to make connections, is to network, is to know people in the industry that might want to buy your music. If I'm sitting here in St. Kitts, I don't know anybody, how am I going to get my music out there to anybody? I need somebody to market it and promote it for me. So you have to do your research, and you have to find out who the players in the game are, who the publishers are, who the producers are. And actually, as a creator of music, you should know what you have to do when you go into a production studio. And if the studio that you go into to record something does not know what you're talking about, I would question whether you really want to record your music in his studio, or two, are you going to educate him and say, well, this is why I'm here, this is what I want from you, I'm going to pay for it outright, or let's invest. You need to be, you're the buyer, so beware. You need to know why you're there and where you're spending your money and what you're supposed to get for it.
All right. What we're going to do, we're right at the time for our next break. So we're going to go there. We're going to hear from the good folks at Brimstone Hill. And we have, of course, people in the audience, as I mentioned earlier, who want to jump in on the conversation as well. It's never enough time for us to discuss topics like these. And so there may be an opportunity to come back for a part two, because we want the audience out there, people are listening, whether they're on radio, television, internet, and of course our fancy new mobile app right now as well. They can join us a little bit later as well. So we're going to hear from the folks at Brimstone Hill. We're going to come back, and then we're going to hear from, we'll tell you when we get back.
Yes. Okay.
Explore the history of St. Kitts with a visit to the Brimstone Hill Fortress National Park. This 42-acre complex of fortifications has been designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Upon entering the fortress, you can choose to visit the gift shop and orientation center, where you can purchase unique, high-quality items at duty-free prices. Or you can look in on the Fort George Museum, which boasts a collection of military and other exhibits unrivaled in the Eastern Caribbean. The breathtaking view of Brimstone Hill includes the mountain range and a view of several other islands on a clear day, and of the Sandy Point Bay that the fortress once defended. Visit us and really experience the history of St. Kitts. This venue will also lend an indescribable ambience to your wedding or banquet.
Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Guess who's back?
Who that? Pinocchio? The people
Birthday surprise, with sports and entertainment lives. Can't improvise cause there's so much inside. Fashion is style, word on the street will make you smile. People show, youth awareness, interest in the fashion closet, and many more that you cannot visit. Now, for young and old, it's not my show, that's how we roll. People show, now everybody tune in on time on Wednesdays at 9.
Join ZIZ Radio and Television for a special edition of the Round Table on Tuesday, April 28th at 8 p.m. This show will be hosted by Clement O'Garo, and the discussion will take a look at the culture of prevention in occupational safety and health. Guests will include Spencer Amry, Labor Commissioner, Lincoln Maynard, Manufacturing Division, CIC, Stanley Franks, St. Kitts and Nevis Trades and Labor Union, and Chesil Hamilton, Public Relations Officer, Social Security. To join the discussion, call 466-2666. Our aim is to inform and educate. ZIZ, the golden voice of the nation. Welcome back to the round table. And as I said, we do have some folks who decided to, who were invited, I should say, to join us tonight. And so we're gonna go to King Socrates, who I know I've seen. Are we not ready? Okay, so King Socrates, we're gonna hold on while we get you. Can't afford to not have the king on camera, so we'll get that set up. But John, you wanted to. Well, before I go to John, though, Adrian, you wanted to jump in on something that we were.
Well, let me talk about.
Okay.
What Marley was talking about.
Go ahead.
As a manager of bands, I've always tried to encourage musicians who make original recordings to do one thing. When you've when you've gone into a studio and you're vibing and you think you've written the world's best song, it's a #1 all around the world, get a piece of paper, and on that paper you write the name of the song, okay, and who did what. Like if I did la 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 boom boom boom, what percentage of that song is la la
But
boom
what if you're
boom boom?
lying?
No, but you won't lie because you're all doing it together. You sit there, you all of it together, and you agree that.
But we've heard a lot of stories.
So I'm going to explain to you how this story is eliminated.
Yeah.
So you sit there and everybody writes what they did. The drummer did this, the bass player did that, and then you'll find out maybe there are 10 people, and sometimes the 10 people have written a song, and get everybody to sign the date and the time. Then they did that, and you have that paper and you put it away, and I promise you, that would save every argument that will come later. Because what you then do, you then take that to a lawyer, a publisher, and say, interpret that in legal terms, and then you have contracts to do that.
Yeah, but you do have lawyers on the other side who are going to defend their clients as well. And I understand that point. But as I said, we're set up now.
But we're just a second.
Okay, go ahead.
But what he's talking about is almost the most important thing that you do.
No.
You have to identify who contributed to that creation. They're called splits, and it determines you determine the percentages.
Correct,
If there are 10 people, and it doesn't matter if it's 2 words, if it's 1 word, if it's not even a word, but it's you have to write down John. From the song, John did verse 2 and verse 4. So and so did verse 3 and 6, and so you've got those people that did it. You agree right there how you're going to split it.
Not after, not the day after.
Right,
not the week
right
after.
there, right there.
Okay,
So as a rule of thumb, a good practice, a best practice for artists that are creating, is you create a sheet. Some producers who are organized will have a standard sheet that you could use because they're going to document it. But for yourself, create a sheet that has the blank spaces, and when you go in and anytime you create something and collaborate with somebody, you write all that information down. And contact information. People move, right? But it doesn't matter that since that person who co-collaborated with you on a song moved, that they still did not create the song. Make sure you get an email, cell phone, and then be responsible as a creator so that you can get paid.
The only difficulty with that, though, is that in the time we are now, a lot of music is passed on the internet. So we're not together in the same room. That's an older tradition. So you might be in England, I might be in St. Kitts, somebody else in New York.
Send an email.
So then we have to document it in a different way, right? Because the producer might be in Hong Kong.
Right.
So so the main thing is to get some documentation. But what John said is accurate. You really have been in a number of situations like that where we have to sit down and you say, well, okay. But if somebody came with the core song, but you might have come up with an idea for the hook that made a tremendous difference to the song. So you have to document those things and decide how you're going to break it down.
Okay, guys. Can't keep the king waiting any longer. So
King, forgive me.
yes.
Pardon us.
Having laid out the ideal approach for documenting the creation of the work through the publishing agency, the CMO, not the Chief Medical Officer, the collection management agency. We know that music production whole is a multi-billion-dollar, if not trillion-dollar industry globally. So it's piracy. Let's bring it down to the local level. Having done all that, dotted all the I's, crossed all the T's, how do you, as a publisher or the CMO, guarantee protection or the collection of your music when it's being played on the streets, in the dance venues, etc.? Now, some of the local artists don't mind giving their CDs to Monarch, to the various stations, because they want the airplay, they want to get popularity. We know we don't have that mechanism in place where Monarch would have a playlist of all the songs played.
Yet.
As yet.
Yet is the underlying word.
It's coming.
It has to come.
That would be the ideal situation. There's a play sheet in each studio. Every time a song is played, the CMO can actually track it at the end of the month, collect from the various entities, radio station, television, whatever, and the royalties come back to you. On the streets, We know we have a number of outlets that sell everything. Not only the carnival time, but throughout the year. We know we have some nationals living abroad who love the new calypso, but they're living in London and they come home, they want to get copies of this and that. And there are people who can go to. How do you, I'm the artist, I can give you the information. What mechanisms are in place on the streets where that the piracy actually is more prominent there? How do you collect and protect my work on the street? How would I get royalties in return for that?
I as a record label, I have a couple of record labels, and every artist is registered on there and properly. I always wish that I had a song that was infringed in the Caribbean, so I can really exercise my rights.
It's never happened to you?
It's never happened to me yet. Because
I'm gonna sign up with you.
Because I don't own or involve with any of the new vibes or small acts or the grandmasters, those who are selling. I wish I did, because I would sue ZIZ, and for sure. And I would go down the markets and I'll make sure that they wouldn't pirate your stuff if I owned it, because I know the steps to go to make sure that your rights are protected and my rights not infringed upon.
Yeah,
Because that's where the drainage,
But
where the street
one
comes in.
thing, I'm sorry, one thing to bear in mind, of course, though, is that, I mean, you can't sue if there's no legislation.
Okay, no, you would stop there because there is legislation in place in St. Kitts.
And I certainly understand. I certainly understand that, and that is the reason why, just like so many other people in the Caribbean, we have had initial discussions with ECO in St. Lucia. We know what the procedure is. We have a document in our hand that tells us what we should pay based on all the calculations. So it's not that we're not taking the steps to get there.
But you said soon, so how soon?
Something's missing.
But Manak, that's one part of the discussion though. You're talking about royalties from the youth.
Correct.
But in terms of what Socrates addressing, the
Well,
actual
we don't
cities,
we
have a
officially
difficulty.
ZIZ don't do that.
No, I'm not including. I'm not
I
including
think
ZIZ.
Socrates was talking about
Officially.
infringement, and he is saying, look, if these persons on the road infringing my right, my intellectual property right, how do I collect royalties? And actually, it's infringement. You can't collect royalties from them. But you, as the rights owner, can take legal action against the infringer. You can get an injunction to prevent them from continuing the infringement or to stop them from doing what they're doing. You can also ask the court for damages, and the court can award you damages. Another thing you can do is there's criminal action, criminal sanctions, where for what I think in summary court, well, let me say the magistrate court, they can be fined as much as $50,000, plus 2 years imprisonment. And if it is done at the high court level, it's, I think, $250,000 and or 5 years imprisonment. But again, it's the right holder who has to take action. So if the rights holder in St. Kitts and Nevis, they do nothing but they complain, then that's it.
But I want to ask this question though: is it that easy? I mean, to me, if it was that easy, someone like David Rudder in Trinidad would still be recording. I mean, he basically pulled out of going into the studio to record because he could not deal with the pirates in Port of Spain.
There are different remedies. Shadow, as you know, his remedy was to go down Frederick Street with a baseball bat, and he literally physically attacked. The police in Trinidad have been very vigilant in recent times. They don't get all the pirates, but the pirates actually have to pick up and run when they see the police presence.
Just like New York,
We have legislation on the books in St. Kitts since 2000. Ms. Jenkins could verify. But the we have had meetings as production people and so with the police to try to assist with the enforcement of the laws. The powers given to the police are great. In fact, it's very similar to those of drug and
It
drug
is.
rates.
It's quite
You can break and enter without even a warrant. It goes, is that serious? You can confiscate equipment for reproduction if you have evidence that that person is doing piracy. So there are remedies. One way is to take an injunction and file, but usually the police have not been educated. We tried one time, but they need to get up to speed, because this is an area of revenue for our local economy that is going to the wayside. So the element of the society is one thing, but that to me is a smaller element, the piracy element. I mean, I did some calculations almost 10 years ago, and I believe during a Christmas time it's about $500,000 that the artists lose a ton. And it's that high. But one of the things the artists have to be very careful with, though, is that a lot of the music that comes out from St. Kitts has a lot of sampling of material that belongs to other people. And the societies are not going to regard those tunes as original. Without getting into who they may be. A lot of the so-called music that's put out there has in elements of a lot of other. So when you go through it, you're going to say, well, this belongs to this international artist and this international. By the time you finish, there's nothing left. So they don't get anything.
We won't even get far.
They're only recording, but basically the songwriters' rights, they have very little in it, because the verses from this artist, the choruses from somebody else, and so therefore we have to start getting truly creative.
Correct, and we get that all the time. I mean, and we know, just to put this little caveat in of how serious this is. I mean, of course, you guys recognize, all you people who have Facebook pages, you cannot put anything up there that you don't own the rights to. Anything more than 30 seconds, you get this nasty email from Mr. Zuckerberg telling you he's going to shut down your account and he's going to threaten you with all this stuff. Marlene, you wanted to jump in.
It goes back to what I was saying, and I will continue to reinforce this. Buyer beware. If you are a creator, nobody else is going to take more interest in your work than you, right? You have to know what you're doing with the music. If you choose to do a tune and use it to promote yourself, right? And you give it to the radio stations, you're not registered anywhere, and you say, okay, well, I'm going to use this as a promotional tune. Then you know it's a promotional tune. You're probably not going to make money on that, but it serves its purpose to get you out there and get you familiar. If you produce a tune that you want to make money from, how serious are you about making money from it? Because you have to be vigilant. If it's like what Adrian said, baseball bat. I'm not encouraging violence, but I'm saying that if you know somebody is pirating your stuff down on the corner every day at 2, you be there every day at 2. You use the laws that are here on the books. You go to the police, and it's the kind of thing where it's not going to go away. You have to be vigilant. Pirating is never going away. Okay? It's always going to be here. So if you know, it's just like being a part of your job. If you know that people are pirating your stuff and you know where they are, you're lucky you know where they are, then you need to be in their face, telling, using the laws that are here. And okay, so it worked, right? And even what John said, yes, you can get a lawyer and you can sue somebody, but very rarely does it ever go to court, because sometimes by the mere fact that they're being contacted by a lawyer in writing on behalf of someone that owns the property and they're using it illegally, they will settle. So what I'm saying is, exercise your right? And another thing I'm going to add, which we're going to get into, I would imagine, there is strength in numbers. We continue to do things by ourselves. We think we can do absolutely everything as a creator. I can write the music, I can write the lyrics, I can create the music with my home studio, I can produce it, I can sell it myself. No, you cannot. Not effectively. So what I'm going to say is, a way that we can work together is by being part of some form of association, right? Can you imagine if just all of us up here at this panel, we were part of an association? and I was selling music, and I recognized somebody was pirating my music, and I told everyone in the association, and they supported me, and every day at 2 o'clock when we know the pirate's there, all of us show up there. We don't have to touch them, but I can verbalize, do not use my music. I can get the police, I know the laws, and if you harass them the same way they're harassing you, they must settle, right? So what I'm saying is an association means we have to work together as a group of musicians, of a group of writers, of a group of people in the music industry, and support each other's battles. Agitate for better working conditions, agitate for better rates of pay for live performances, agitate the radio stations to pay to license to play music, the television stations. These things don't exist properly here in St. Kitts and Nevis, but as an association, as us being voices and agitating for it, we can make it happen.
Right,
Okay, I'm gonna let you guys get in, but before I did say that we were going to invite callers to call as well. So this is your opportunity. If you have a contribution, a question, whatever it is, you can give us a call at 466-2666. John, I'm going to go to Mrs. Jenkins first and then come to you.
Okay, it's just a point Marlene raised, and the first thing is you have to know your rights, because I think this is one of the problems we have in St. Kitts and Nevis. The creators, the musicians, they do not know their rights. They don't know the law. They don't know how to enforce the law. And therefore, they have to take some time and find out. If they come to the intellectual property office, they can go and see a lawyer who has some knowledge of intellectual property and find out what are my rights. And then how, if my rights are infringed, how can I enforce it? Because that is a problem. They don't know, but they have to know. And this is one of the mandates of the Intellectual Property Office is public awareness and public knowledge and IP. Unfortunately, we do not have the human resource component to do it effectively.
But to add just a little addendum to what you're saying, I think they don't know what their rights are. But by doing that, they also don't know what the rights of the other people are that they might be sampling or using material from.
Jonna, I'm going to let you get in, but what we're going to do, let's take some calls, hear what the callers say, and then we can take notes, and we'll try to answer as much as possible. Good evening, caller. Welcome to the round table. Hello.
Good evening, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can.
Okay, thank you very much. The Memphis Kid here.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
The Memphis.
Oh, the Memphis. Okay. Welcome in, brother.
Very nice. Greetings. Pleasant good night to your panel, all kings and queens who are on the panel. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. To your audience that you have in the studio. Pleasant good night. I find this is very important at this time because first, we are approaching music festival. Second, we are close to the CPL, where musicians will be in performance for both of those celebrations in the CPL and music festival. So I find it's very relevant and timely. But one thing I had to ask was pertaining to ZA said having a budget towards paying CMO, but I heard a little clarification earlier, so I hear the Monarch say that they are now producing or setting up soon to have a playlist, etc. So I'll leave it here for that. I'll wait for next time to hear when they put in place that mechanism of starting to pay artists for playing their music.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
No, one more.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, not trying to cut you off.
No problem. The second thing I would like to find out from John Francis, is does the Island Beat company has a record to show how many cities they sold from the compilation album from St. Kitts? Thank Thank you very much, and President Knight, I'll wait for answer from John Francis.
All right, thank you very much for your call, and of course putting us on the spot. But we don't mind it. We're glad for the fact that people are recognizing that this is something that must happen. And hey, there are 12 other radio stations in St. Kitts, so we're not going to promote any other stations. So keep piling it on ZIZ. Yeah. If we don't have another call, then John, we're going to hear. I don't know if that's. Well, hold on. We do have another call, so let's go ahead and take the calls as we said. Good evening, caller. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mada.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Lam and Miss Jenkins, and the other person, which name I'm not familiar with.
Marlene.
Okay.
Marlene. Good program as usual.
Thank you.
Now, I have something I would like to say. Now, with this pirating problem that we have, I would say around the world, it is very hard to get rid of that, because as long as we have modern technology, where someone could just go and download on the computer. Once they have that music, then they know the way how to get it on the wax. And then they don't have to put them on display on a sideboard to sell them. They could have them hidden behind some place, and when somebody passes across, they say, man, I could sell you this one. And they say, wait, and they go on the second one and they sell them and he gone. So as long as they have that kind of privilege to do those things, it is hard to kill out this pirating business. But like the lady said before, the penalty should be very, very high. Once you could prove that this person has a CD which is not originally recorded, the fine should be able to make them stop doing that foolishness. And it will send a message to others who want to do it. And that's my view, that is the way I see. So thanks for listening.
All right, thank you very much for John. I don't know if you need to answer the question.
Yeah, two of them, but I have two questions, two answers. You said that ZIZ will be having a playlist soon, or a.
Well, I mean, hey, this is 2015, not 1915.
That's true.
And as someone who has been at the forefront, I may say, as an artist, of registering every single one of my music. Me and Adrian has a common history in 1987 when when Adrian brought in the equipment and opened the first full-fledged studio in St. Kitts. I wrote a song that I normally sang at the junior high school. At that time it wasn't Washi. We sang at the junior high school as a guest because of my association with the junior high school. And I wrote a simple, stupid song to sing there. I changed the lyrics and sang it for Carnival. Recorded it with Adrian. It was put on a compilation album. That year we had 2 compilation albums. And because I register every single thing that I own, I was able to get royalties for that song because it was registered, first of all. So that's my little history that I can bring. And just to show how important it is, because I don't think that some people understand what to do, and we're going to spend the last 15 minutes trying to tell people, how do you get this process going? What is the first thing you do? What is the second thing you do? How do you get Echo to send out money that they have in St. Lucia
you're not going to get
for
away with that
Fantastic
easy.
Thunder?
I'm very glad that you explained that, but you're not going to get away that easily. ZIZ and all the radio stations in St. Kitts, and not only St. Kitts, but in the whole OECS, all right? What needs to happen is to create, we need to develop an industry in the Caribbean, for sure, the Eastern Caribbean. And I think, having been here for like 13, 14 years working at this, I think the way forward, the onus is on the radio stations and their playlists. Okay.
Well,
Wait, let me give it to you. You're coming into. You won't let me go there, would you?
No. But I think that it's very unfair.
Let me go there.
No, I'm going to let you finish. But I think that it's very unfair that we're putting so much emphasis only on the radio stations.
Let me go there.
ECHO collects from clubs, the music festival, the CPL, the ICC World Cup. All these people need to pay as well. It's not just the radio stations. The radio stations are only part of the equation. I'll let you continue, sir.
Okay, radio stations have, CPL and those organizations, they will take a license. Okay, they will go to me as a publisher and say, we want to play your music throughout the cricket. And I'll say, okay, give me $10,000 as a license. It's just a one-off license.
Correct.
With the limitations. But a playlist is a completely different thing altogether. Because, let me finish, no.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, if we could have a situation where radio stations have a real playlist, I mean a playlist that every Monday morning there's a meeting and they all say, okay, what are we going to play? We're going to play that song, and that song. And not what happens is that a DJ's on the radio and he said, boy, I like that one more time. My girlfriend is calling, maybe play it another time, and playing what they want to play. That is just, that's just crazy. I mean, what should happen is that the radio station have a playlist. They then have radio formats, demographics, all these things. Please let me finish. At the end of the week,
I'm glad the camera is not on me.
At the end of the week, the radio station will have a list of all the songs they've played, all the artists' revenues, and then they would send the money to the CMOs. Now let me finish. Now, if this is done properly, what would this mean? It would mean that Socrates will have could make jingles, and he does a deal with an advertising agent who then licenses it from him. He earns money there. The record gets on the radio and the TV, they pay, he gets money there. And before you know it, our little island like St. Kitts of Nevis would have a few $1 million around, which we then give to the artists and the originators, and there are laws and there are formats and there are things in place for that machinery to work. And before you know it, it will be a curve that goes like this.
Correct.
And we will start off with $2 or $3 million. Within 5, 10, 15 years, we'll have many $1 million. So young people can come into the business. They can create recording studios and make 1 or 2 hits that can be picked up by other licensed people and be spread around the world and become hits. So the key of everything, it goes to the radio stations to make playlists, to make weekly charts to see what's number 1, number 2, number 3 in that chart, market those charts, pay licensing, and then owners of copyrights will get money back. It's nice to get a small check. And Zemensis Kidos, the second answer to your question, as a record company, I am very strict. I have had experience with all the major companies in the world, from EMI, Sony. I represent many Caribbean artists who've done very well, and in place there is royalties that's paid to everybody, and it's all documented, whether digitally or physically. So I think that is how I do my business, and I think if we all did business like that, to be transparent, to have managers, to have agents, to have publishers, radio stations paying royalties. TDC and Horsefords are paying license for the use of songs. When I listen to ZIZ, I hear Michael Jackson being used on jingles. I hear there's one old people's home that's been using Tina Turner's lyrics for a long time. Win FM is using Madonna's music for their daily chat shows, and every day this music is played by Madonna every day, and infringing copyrights all over the place. It's just havoc out there in St. Kitts and Nevis. And if we organize this thing properly,
Can I
we
get a
will
say
make
now?
money for our young people and our industry. It is true, I tell you.
But you have
John,
to
all right.
John, once just to rebut and a bit in defense of ZIZ and Monarch.
Because you have radio station.
Because I do have radio station, but I think there's something going on here that we're not saying.
I think you're going to make my point here.
Right. The artists on
Amen,
one
brother.
hand have not been educated.
Exactly.
The industry in terms of the radio, maybe some TV, nobody has come and said we need to collect licenses from a lot of them. The playlist exists. There are playlists from both organizations you call and others. There are playlists that exist. The problem is, and I'll go to the music festival, we have paid licenses to Echo for 3 years, maybe 4. The artists from Synkits, there's money sitting down there that has gone nowhere because Echo hasn't showed any interest in coming to Synkits and educating neither the artists or the general public as to how this whole thing should work. Right. Echo was present last year at the music festival. Yet they're calling me a month later for playlists that happened the month before. Now, if they here don't think they should make it their own thing to get the playlists from the artists, I'm not working for Echo. I understand the artist's rights, but don't you think they should have spoken to whether local, because the foreigners know what to do. The international artists make sure it's already done.
And just to say, I'm going to get to we got another.
So what I'm saying is that I think that these collective management organizations in the Caribbean, yes, they have a job to do, but they also, part of their job is education, both for the artists and for the institutions that pay the licenses. But my problem is there has been no education from them about the whole process. You know, we as artists and maybe institutions that use in music, understand some of it, but they need to come and make an investment here rather than just coming and going straight after the money. Because all they want to do is the money. How is that money spent? My friend on the phone asked a while about Echo spends 85% in management fees and 50% goes to the artists. Now, how much sense does that make? I really don't know, but you can't have collective management organizations where the cost of running them is sometimes almost as high as what they're collecting. That means the money is just going to pay certain people and none ends up with the artists. So it's something that we have to address. Whether that means we have our own collective management agency for Synkits, whether we join Echo and try and defray some of those costs or make it more efficient, we have difficulties and we have certain problems that we have to address. But but just to go after certain radio stations, does cable pay licensing? They show all kind of movies and with music content in them. Do they pay licensing? They probably should have the biggest bill in Synkits, but because it's partially government owned, it doesn't address itself. So these are difficulties we have.
Hold on, guys. I think that we need to get Mr. Bailey, Azem Bailey, who I know is very, very passionate about this issue as well, because we've spoken about it on so many different occasions. So, Azem, you're on the floor.
Well, first of all,
on the mic.
First of all, thanks for having this discussion. I think it's very timely and needed. And you guys have touched on so much important information, a lot of it that I had questions about, and you guys have already addressed. But just to touch on the collective management organization topic, speaking to fellow artists, musicians, songwriters about getting registered and trying to get them involved in the whole mechanics of the industry, one of the things that I've heard back from some of these artists is a reluctance or just a lack of confidence in the CMOs to do their job, namely Echo in our region. And so a lot of them ask me or do research on other collective management agencies and wonder if that's a better option. Like Adrian stated, a lot of the money is used for management in Echo, and as well as a lot of the artists recognize that the Caribbean market is a smaller market, and so it might not generate the revenue that they would like to see. Recognizing that, want to get their music into bigger markets like Europe, America, even Africa, and sometimes wonder if like PRS may be a better option for them, even though they're from this region. That's one thing. That's one. Also, and I mean that's a big problem. We don't have the artists themselves registered. How can they collect? And so I'm appealing to all artists that may be listening to this right now to go do your research, get registered somewhere, somehow, even if you have a reluctance. You can't be in it. You can't win it if you're not in it. Also, Adrian mentioned, but I want to really state the case that recordings are only one revenue stream. Your performances as well must be documented. You must also send your playlist. You perform on a music fest or even the CPL like we've been talking about. Send your playlist, send your set list to your CMOs so that they know, okay, I performed here, this is what I performed. And hold your CMOs accountable as artists because they should collect on your behalf. I want to also, big up Monarch going through the, saying that Ziz is trying to get this underway. And I know that there are other radio stations that may not be there yet. I want to make a suggestion. I think it's something that's been discussed before, but I want to reiterate it. All of these stations, they pay some type of licensing with the government. I believe that in order for them to retain their license, that they should be able to prove that they're registered with some CMO. And also that there's an infrastructure to allow the CMOs to get the information they need so that they can collect the proper fees and all that. I think that's one way that we could go about addressing that situation. Having, when you go and get your license to broadcast, that you have to prove that, hey, I'm also registered with the CMO, and that helps to protect everybody.
I could answer his question directly.
Okay.
I could answer his question
Everybody
directly.
wants to get
At the same time.
on this one, but I think just one thing though. Let me just jump in. I'll give everybody an opportunity to. I think that it's very important for us to address the CMOs because I think Adrian, as they made some critical points, stuff that you hear people talking about. I worked as corporate communications for the T20 World Cup in 2009-2010, and just like Adrian said, I had to come up with a playlist to send to St. Lucia, and it kind of almost turned out to be like a waste of time for the local artists because, on the other hand, nobody's registered.
Right.
So the money goes to St. Lucia, and we don't know what happens to it from there. Earlier this year, I think, or earlier this year, at the workshop held in Bird Rock at Customs, I think it's Steve Etienne from Echo. I mean, was basically saying, well, I have money that the music festival paid, and none of these guys are registered, so I can't pay them any money. So let's go. We're going to go John, Marlene, and then Mrs. Jenkins.
While it's hot, okay?
Yes.
There's one piece of the puzzle that's missing in this dialogue here, okay? We put too much emphasis on these collective management organizations. These people collect from the radio for you. They should really be a last resort in the game plan. What we don't have in the Caribbean that other countries have what they call publishers. Okay? Now it's publishers and sub-publishers. We do not have that operation. So in Jamaica, Barbados and Trinidad, CMOs are very powerful. They become like publishers. Now they don't have the interest of individual artists in the same way as if the artist was contracted by a publisher. Meaning this, I'm a publisher. I'm publishing Socrates, I'm publishing Adrian, and I'm publishing Marlin. I go to the CMO, to Echo, and I will go to Echo every year or maybe twice a year and says, give me the money from my artist. And I make sure I get that. Okay, I make sure that his administration fees are low, and then you get the money. Okay, a good thing about a publisher is that if you don't have to wait for the CMO Echo to get money from you from England. What you should really do is that your publisher does a sub-publishing deal, okay, with another publisher in a different territory. So if you have a song that's kicking in the UK and it's doing really well, it's not interesting really for Echo in St. Lucia to go to England and collect for you. Okay, it doesn't work that well. Or if it gets a hit in Japan, for example, Echo doesn't really have much power in Japan. I can tell you that for sure. No power there. What needs to happen is that you need to do a sub-publishing deal, or your publisher go to England or go to United States and do a deal with a local publisher who then collects for you in that area and then sends it to the CMO or even sends it to you direct. You see? So we are putting a lot of emphasis on CMOs where we should really put in more emphasis on publishers. We really need companies who are publishing company who are then become your front line of attack against CMOs, against to get licensing, because it is not you direct who will get a license for CPL, it's your publisher who will go and get a license for CPL and negotiate for you really hard.
And they administer your catalog.
And measure, I mean, absolutely.
They administer your catalog, which makes life a lot easier for you.
So John, you also hear about field publishing in the Caribbean.
All right. Now, I said I was going to go to Marley. Let's go to Marley. Interesting point, though, Adrian.
I'm going to continue to drive this point home. Buyer beware. Know the industry you're working in. I will tell you honestly, there's a lot of dishonest people in the music industry, from managers to agents to publishers to CMOs. Okay? You've got to read, you've got to compare, and you've got to decide with heart on hand if it feels right, and from your research you're confident that you're going to take a chance with this one, then do it. My suggestion is, I don't believe in waiting for things to develop, right? We can't wait for St. Kitts to have all the publishers and all the right agents and kind of people in place and everything crossed and dotted. What I suggest, do your research. If you happen to have music that, however you got it out there, is popular in Europe, look for a CMO that deals with Europe. PRS deals with Europe. If you have music that is popular in America, deal with a CMO in America. Now you assign, when you join a CMO, you tell them what territories you want them to represent you in, right? So, and I'm not saying this is the model. I'm saying do your research and decide for yourself based on your music and where your music is popular. If I had a popular tune, maybe my market is in America and it's in Europe, in Paris or somewhere in the UK. I might say, okay, for my tune number 1 and 2, which are doing well in the States, I'm going to register with BMI. I'm going to say you can deal with these territories only for me. You can represent me in these territories. And then I might go to PRS and say, okay, you can represent me in these other territories that they're not representing me in, because you cannot have more than one CMO representing you in the same territory. You understand? So you must decide. And again, this boils down to how well you know your music and your market. Who is buying your music? Where do they live? Right? So do the research, ask the questions, and become more knowledgeable about the industry that you're in. We meaning the panel up here, continue to hold workshops, forums like this. We send you emails, we sensitize you about it. We cannot force you to go. If you're serious about making music your career, and to make it your career, you need to live off it, you need to earn from it. You will come and attend these workshops and forums and these facilities and ask the right questions. Adrian's very informed. He's very busy, but you can find him. John Francis as well. Ms. Jenkins, myself at Culture. Ask a question. Make the phone call. Take the time to care about your career and what has to be. You don't have to have all the answers. We can guide you. We can share our information and experience. It's not the absolute, but from there you have a starting place to go to this site and do more research, find out the basic fundamental route that you could take, and explore it. You don't know unless you take a risk and you try. And as Ms. Jenkins said, the IP office, you can go down there. You can ask about the technical side of things, about the laws that exist, what your rights are. There's a lawyer to talk to you about it, to advise you and guide you. Become more familiar with the industry you're in to protect yourself. Nobody's going to protect your works more than you.
All right, so that was a mouthful. I know I said I'm going to come to you, Mrs. Jenkins, but what we're going to do is we're going to take a break, our final break. We're going to acknowledge our sponsors, and we'll come back, and then we'll kind of start to wrap things up. John, I like your point about the publisher, because yes, the publisher, I think it's the key person in this equation. I mean, I actually took a note here. I mean, you know, they collect your royalty monies, they plug your songs, they make copyright deals, they pay you your royalties from all sources of income. So, very important. Okay, now we're going to take the break. We'll hear from our folks at Brimstone Hill. When we come back, we will hear from Mrs. Jenkins. We have another person on the floor who wants to make a contribution, and we'll get to you in a minute. Hold on. We'll get to you in a minute. So we'll be...
Explore the history of St. Kitts with a visit to the Brimstone Hill Fortress National Park. This 42-acre complex of fortifications has been designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Upon entering the fortress, you can choose to visit the gift shop and orientation center, where you can purchase unique, high-quality items at duty-free prices. Or you can look in on the Fort George Museum, which boasts a collection of military and other exhibits unrivaled in the Eastern Caribbean. The breathtaking view of Brimstone Hill includes the mountain range and a view of several other islands on a clear day, and of the Sandy Point Bay that the fortress once defended. Visit us and really experience the history of St. Kitts. This venue will also lend an indescribable ambience to your wedding or banquet.
Join ZIZ Radio and Television for a special edition of the Round Table on Tuesday, April 28th at 8 p.m. This show will be hosted by Clement O'Garo, and the discussion will take a look at the culture of prevention in occupational safety and health. Guests will include Spencer Amry, Labor Commissioner, Lincoln Maynard, Manufacturing Division, CIC, Stanley Franks, St. Kitts and Nevis Trades and Labor Union, and Chesil Hamilton, Public Relations Officer, Social Security. To join the discussion, call 466-2666. Our aim is to inform and educate. ZIZ, the golden voice of the nation. Okay, welcome back to the round table, and this is, of course, our final segment tonight. And I mean, you know, the discussions during the break, I mean, you know, produces, I should say, a lot of information. Mrs. Jenkins, I was going to go ahead and come to you, because we were, you know, in a huddle talking about some stuff that you wanted to contribute to. So okay. I'll let you get in, and then we'll hear from our good friend Watusi.
Okay, no, I was just going to follow up from what Marlene said about you registering with different CMOs. Because from what I know, there is usually a reciprocal arrangement between the CMOs. So if you're registered with one CMO, then, and you're on their register list, the other CMOs that their arrangement with can collect for you in the areas that they are responsible for. So then there is no need to go to various CMOs.
Correct. But you do have an option to designate the territory if you choose to. It's all about choices. I mean, you don't have to, because yes, exactly what you said is true. If you belong to one CMO, they can, and you give them permission to collect for you worldwide, that's your choice. But if you choose not to, you can designate the territory that you want a CMO to collect for you, and another one for another area of the territory that the first CMO is not collecting. So there are options. It just depends what you feel comfortable with.
But why I said that, because I know I have been told by certain persons in cases, they go, is it PMS or
PRS is in the UK.
PRS.
They go to PRS and they were referred back to the local agency.
Right.
So yes, they're saying, look, I want to be registered with you because I know how effective you are. And so, and they said, well, no, you have to go back to. Yes.
Right, but I also know some. I also know some artists who have been accepted, and that's recently. Because I mean, if something, I mean, I don't want. I don't want artists to get the impression that we're forcing them to choose in the Caribbean.
Right.
I think. I mean, I understand what Echo wants to become.
Yeah.
It's clear that it's not there yet. So I mean, and this is conversations I've had with artists who are questioning where to go. They don't want to sign with a company that's not functioning.
Right. And I
so,
think
you know,
based on that,
the options
able to. And I suppose they will open their doors.
Yeah, because
for the
I have artists who I've spoken with who have recently, I would say this year, have registered with PRS and have done it successfully. I think it's again, it's your choice, it's your decision as an artist who you want to register with.
Okay, so we're getting ready to wrap up. I think they're still like 7 minutes away from us at the beginning of the show, so we're gonna take it back. See, my producer is looking at me like he's my sponsor said that they wanted the full 2 hours. So Watusi,
yes,
welcome into the conversation.
Give thanks, and it's pretty interesting. I'm just going to rewind back a little from what John was saying, and rewind back a little from what Marlene was speaking about.
Okay.
Now, from my knowledge in this music, around this music industry, I know you have two categories, right, in your copyrights. You have a band standard, where, like you were saying now, 6 persons get together and create a song. Then you have your specifics that each artist or each input, you underline that. Now, for an individual artist, like me, myself, or maybe for Sakwati, who will take our material to the studio, we go with the melody, we go with the music, we go with the lyrics. Now, that is a legitimate approach, so that is a different form of copyright, and that stipulates the artist directly. I think it's called SWR in the Library of Congress. And then you also have another form that if you is a collaboration, then you underline who do this or who do that. That's one part. And then now you have two major bodies in the overhaul of the music. Like John was saying, you must have, first is executive producer. The executive producer is like, I make a song and it's really sounding good, but I don't have the money to get it materialized. Then Mr. Lamb will say, man, this song sounding good. I can produce this song. He's the executive producer.
He's the man with the money. You mean.
Yeah.
There you go.
So he produces song. I know as the artist, there's nothing much in it for me. 7%. 7% from my own work. John now gonna come in now to do distribution. When John collaborate with Mr. Lamb to the distribution, he maybe negotiate for another 7% because Mr. Lamb is not going to give up too much. So that 7% now from John, and 7% John won't have to part in 2 or maybe in 3. But Mr. Lamb going to give me exactly 7%. You see, that's what I'm getting. So in all, I might end up getting 10% of the whole work. That's where you find now artists are being reluctant in getting into certain establishment because they got this gut feeling that they're not getting nothing much. I was in Jamaica and I listened to Peter Tosh speaking on the radio, and Peter Tosh have music playing. He was saying he have music playing all over the world. All over the world, Germany, United States, every place. And he crying, saying he's not getting nothing. Say, every 3 months, 4 months, they are...
He got a check.
They send him a check, $75. So you cannot do nothing. On the other hand, that $75 will add up for a certain time. But then you cannot do nothing without a publisher. Something they call publishing rights. Ras Records, they mainly deal with publishing rights. You have this other company there. Excuse me for not having it on another. VP
Records in New York.
VP Records. These do publishing. So you find now, if we around here into the music thing, and we don't have nobody with that will take the stand to do this publishing rights, these artists around here, we wouldn't get much further but just to eat bread in the streets, like me myself.
Okay.
See? So
And I think that you make a valid point. Just one thing that I want to add though, because I had a record deal with a reputable company in New York. This is a Caribbean company, of course, and we had the executive producer. They produced the record. The deal was, hey, listen, at the end of this thing, we're going to take out our money, we're going to split whatever we sell, 60-40. 60 to the producer, 40 to the artist. Let me tell you, the biggest thing that came out of it, though, was the fact that this producer had a reputation, so they could walk into WLIB in New York, take the song to the DJ, gives it to whoever he needs to give it to, and enable it to stay on the charts for 8 weeks. During that 8 weeks, when the song was so popular and it started to play, everybody wanted to book me to perform wherever they were. And so that's another component of how you make your money. I know we're running out of time, and as I said, we can never have enough time to discuss these topics. So I'm going to suggest now that we do a round two sometime in the future. I think we have
for having me.
All right, thank you very much for your contribution. So I think we had a great discussion tonight. What I'm going to do is to go around the table and give everybody an opportunity to, I don't know, maybe what we need to do is, everybody talks about the artists, and the artists, it's hard for them to get in because of whatever reason. I think we need to convince them to get in, because regardless to what they think about who they're getting in with, you need to get in. You need to get in. If you're not comfortable with ECHO, I've been a member of BMI all my life, and BMI collects everywhere. I mean, they do have different regions. If you live in the Caribbean, you register with the New York office. When I was in Atlanta and Houston, you register with the Memphis office. So there's all kinds of different options for you.
BMI now, you need social security number and all of that.
Well, correct, because when I got in, they practically didn't want anything. I'm talking about the 1980s.
I know when you got in, but for PRS you don't need that. I don't think.
No, with PR, like as I said, you can get the form. You can't do it online, but they will send you a form. You can fill it out, and they will consider, and you get accepted.
Yeah, and I know that a lot of it has changed. You know, and with all respect to the folks in St. Lucia, at ECHO, it would be nice. I mean, you know, if we could see more, you know, coming out of the organization. As I said, I mean, it's tough for ZIZ, but as someone who's worn the hat, or who wears the hat as an artist as well, it's tough for me not to be able to say to an artist, listen, I need to pay you for your music because I understand what it is. And we all need to understand that in St. Kitts, because I had a conversation with a DJ from another radio station, and they think that I was crazy when I told them that the radio station pays the artist for their song. They said, no, it's the other way around. I said, if it's the other way around, then you're going to end up like Frankie Crocker. You're going to end up like Frankie Crocker in New York. But anyway, that's my side of the story. I'm going to go, John, let's start with you.
Yeah, okay, wrap up.
And we're wrapping up. I see my producers and camera people are 5 minutes. So we've been given 5 minutes.
We talk a lot about the CMO, we talk about ECHO, and I think we put a bit too much emphasis on that. We've seen, because maybe that is the closest that we can get. But I think what we need to really try and do is to try and imagine that realize that there's an industry in music. There's a music industry.
Correct.
And in St. Kitts, Adrian talked about $500,000. How much did you say he's lost? I think
it wasn't me, but I said the collective.
St. Kitts is probably worth about 10 times that, per year. At the moment, we're probably worth about $5-6 million a year.
There's a lot of underground productions.
So I mean, some of our artists are getting a lot of views on YouTube. There's a digital world going out there. You can monetize your work in other ways. We seem to be talking about traditional form of selling and marketing music, but there's a new way of marketing music digitally, where there's more control and more opportunities. So I think we should not emphasize too much on this CMOs. We should look at the whole industry as a whole.
And I definitely agree with you, because it is big money. Marlene, what do you say?
What do I say? What I'm going to say is, it is estimated that more than 28 million people worldwide now pay for music subscription, which is up from 20 million in 2012 and just 8 million in 2010. So, if you produce music and you do not have it on a digital platform, you are not making money. Okay? It's one revenue stream, but what I would say to artists is, please document everything you do with your music career, from the music to going to the studio and everything. Document, okay? Read more about the industry that you're in, understand the mechanics of it, how it works, who the players are, and research your market. Know who likes your music and where it's going to be, where you think it's selling, and invest in that. You've got to take, we said a lot of scary things. There is a lot of dishonesty, but there's also a lot of good people in the industry that believe in promoting good music and don't make money unless you're making money. So take a chance, research, just be informed, take a chance on yourself. In the area of using publishers, if your music is not out there, you're going to be making nothing. So what harm is it in taking a chance and investing in a publisher who has like a 90% chance of getting your music out there than you do? They know they know 90 more people than you do. So it is good to be with a publisher. If we don't have a lot of publishers here, we do have some in the region. Do the research, check, find out who's publishing, find out who they're representing, and take a chance. Take a chance.
Of course, and get your music on iTunes. How about that? Yeah. We're gonna go to Adrian.
Yeah. Well, the digital realm you all mentioned, and I had it noted here. There are pros and cons, but I think the pros outweigh the cons in the digital, because it's harder to pirate. If you, for instance, let's get straight to the meat. You spoke about Zuckerberg and Facebook. Apple is one of the tightest when it comes to piracy. They don't allow you to go across platforms, and it's much tighter than what you'll find on a PC or even on Google. If you get on iTunes, you're protected. It's inherent in the coding. You can't transfer that data across platforms. And I think that's something that the local artists got to look at. When you put up stuff on YouTube, you're basically open to
any and anybody.
I mean, the sound is horrible on YouTube, but apart from that, you're open to a lot of piracy on YouTube. People pull down that and use it for all kinds of stuff. So there is a world out there. The whole music business is very complicated. Let's make that very clear. There's no clear-cut way to do anything. And it's like going into the forest. You could go left, right, and you'll get lost. So it's very complicated and complex. So Marlene said you have to take your chances. And basically that's what, in some respects, is gambling. But if you play your cards right and you take informed decisions, you can make a lot of money if you have the right material. Correct. It's better to make 10% of a lot of money than 100% of nothing. And I think that's one of the areas where artists and people in the business here in the Caribbean have to understand that if you get involved with people who know what they're doing, of course they're going to want money for the time and connections and information that they have that you don't have. So you know, it's better to make 10% of $10 million, that's $1 million, than 100% of $1. I mean, you know. Okay. So I think there's a lot of information to be imparted to. I know I don't care how long you're in this business, you're learning stuff every day. You never learn, you know. So we have a lot to learn, but there are ways that the industry in St. Kitts and Nevis can really reach forward. It's one of the businesses where, apart from the recording material and technology that you need to do recordings, it's not a lot of money, because creativity is something that, you know, we have. We have a big example in Jamaica. The music business in Jamaica was the biggest sector in the economy for a long time, especially with Bob Marley alone. Bob Marley was bringing in more money than anything else, and he probably, that whole Marley clan is probably still bringing in, you know, it's an investment that's going to last for a very long time. If we only have one artist breakthrough, you know, that artist could make a lot of money and bring it into our economy. So it's something that we need to invest in. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. And my producers are screaming at me right now because we're way over time. But Mrs. Jenkins, I have to allow you to wrap up our program tonight. And as I said, we'll set another time. I think we need to come back and so that we can, I mean, get to the part of the discussion where, I mean, you know, maybe we have a step-by-step with, you know, the side roads here and there, because you're going to have some side roads as well, as to what we need to do. Because I think we need to get our artists educated. We need to get them registered regardless to what, because that's where you start to make money. So how does the Intellectual Property Office and, you know, help with that?
Well, we're going to carry out our mandate to educate, public awareness and education for the general public. And what we will try to do is we hope that the users will respect, because this is one of the problems, respect other people's intellectual property rights. Because if we have to sustain the music in this digital world, we have to ensure that the creators or the musicians receive fair compensation for their work and credibility, and given credit when they use their work. So we have to ensure that, respect other people's work. Know your rights, know the law. That is paramount.
All right, thank you very much. I think we've had a great discussion tonight. And as I said, we will be back to discuss this topic some more. But we do have, just for fans out there, we do have a special edition of the Roundtable tomorrow evening. That's Tuesday the 28th, where we're going to be talking to the folks who are concerned about occupational safety or health and safety at work. So join us tomorrow night at 8 o'clock for a special edition of the Roundtable. Again, my name is Clement O'Gara. Have a great evening.